As a new idol emerged in New York, an old one was fading in Baltimore. For 11 years, John Unitas had been the quarterback of the Baltimore Colts. He had carried them to 2 championships, and his fluid grace on the football field was all the color he had ever needed to make himself a hero. But last season, with a sore throwing arm, he could do little and was reduced to a bench warmer. Instead of Unitas, the man leading the Colts was Earl Morrall, a gypsy quarterback who had worked without distinction for 4 other teams before coming to Baltimore. But for the Colts, Morrall summoned up all his powers. He summoned up the skills everyone thought he had forgotten. He acquired those he seemed never to have had. With the help of his powerful receivers, he put everything together to become the most valuable player in the National Football League. Morrall's accurate passing put points on the scoreboard, and that is all Coach Don Shula needed because nobody scored much against the Colts. They battered every opponent into complete submission with a defense that tied the all-time league record for the fewest points allowed in a season. The Colts lost only 1 game and were the overwhelming champions of the National Football League's Western Conference. On December 29th at New York Shea Stadium, Joe Namath riddled the Oakland Raiders with 3 touchdown passes and led the Jets to a surprising victory and the championship of the American Football League.
Right now, Baltimore is leading in the NFL.
Come on, killer, get him, baby! Sack it to him, Rabbit! Sack it to him! Put the heat on him! Break him in half! Kill him! Kill him! Fumble! Fumble! Go get it, Earl! Take him in, baby! Take him home, Earl! Pick one off! Dig it out, Willie! Dig it out! Dig it out, baby! Let's go, ram it in! Let's go! He's in there! Take it down! Hey! Woo! I just dove over. It was the biggest hole you ever seen.
Baltimore's victory over Cleveland in the NFL championship was so impressive that all the men of football were convinced that the mighty Colts would win easily against the young Jets in Miami's Super Bowl. But a relaxed and confident Joe Namath made it clear that in his mind, there was no doubt that the Jets would win. We're a better team than Baltimore, he said. We'll win the Super Bowl, I guarantee it. For the Jets, for the Colts, and certainly for millions of football fans, the worth of Broadway Joe's statements could only be measured on the field of action. Baltimore's defense started the championship game as if they would settle the issue very quickly. They hammered down the New York runners and boxed in Namath's receivers. After 3 minutes of this treatment, the Jets relinquished the ball to Baltimore's offense. On his first call, Earl Morrow threw to John Mackey, who batted the Jets with a 19-yard run. Morrow then turned to his ground game. Tom Maddy, number 41, and Jerry Hill, number 45, powered the Colts past midfield. Once in New York territory, Morrow returned to his passing attack and connected with Tom Mitchell on the New York 19-yard line. But there Morrow threw 2 incompletions. And on third down, he was pressured out of his passing pocket and was forced to run for no gain. Baltimore wasted its first scoring opportunity when Lou Michaels missed a field goal from the 27. On the final play of the first period, Lenny Lyles, number 43, gave Baltimore a second chance when he knocked the ball from George Sauer, and the Colts recovered on the Jets' 12. The first quarter belonged to the Colts, but in the second quarter, with Baltimore pressing for a score, the feeling of the game changed suddenly. It changed on the one accomplishment which most often reverses the trend in a football game: the denial of a sure touchdown. From the Jet 6, Morrow passed to Tom Mitchell. The ball caromed off Mitchell's shoulder pads and into the hands of New York's Randy Beverly. For the second time, the Colts squandered a scoring chance, but even more significant, they lost control of the game. Joe Namath used Beverly's interception as the springboard for a brilliantly executed 80-yard touchdown drive. On 3 successive running plays, Namath sent Matt Snell into the spongy right side of the Colt defense. With Baltimore properly concerned with the Jet running attack, Namath went to the air. He first threw to Bill Mathis on an outlet pass for 6 yards. He then connected with split end George Sauer twice, once for 14 yards, and again for 11. Namath's 4th completion, a flare into Snell, moved the Jets to the Colts' 9. From there, Namath went back to the run, and Snell carried twice, scoring the second time from 4 yards out over the sagging right side of the Colt line. The touchdown was vital to the Jets, for it proved that they could move the ball against the powerful Colt defense. With a 7-0 lead, the job now fell to New York's defense. Throughout the second quarter, the talented Colts constantly threatened to score, but never did. They moved the ball handily, but each time they arrived at the gates of the end zone, the Jets produced a drive-stopping effort.
Oh, come on! You dirty Colt! You dirty guy!
With Baltimore threatening on New York's 15, Johnny Sample intercepted a pass by Earl Morrow. It marked the 3rd time the Jets turned back the Colts inside the 20-yard line. With 25 seconds left in the half, the Colts again penetrated Jet territory. This time, Morrow called for a bit of razzle-dazzle that he had used successfully earlier in the season. 4 months before against the Atlanta Falcons, the play resulted in a touchdown pass from Morrow to flanker Jimmy Orr. Against the Jets, it began successfully. But Morrall's pass to fullback Jerry Hill fell short and was intercepted by Jim Hudson. The real tragedy of the play, however, was the fact that Jimmy Orr, the primary receiver, was standing all alone within easy reach of the end zone. Morrall did not see him and threw instead down the middle, where Hudson intercepted. The first half ended with the Jets ahead 7-0, and Baltimore's precision and power, so evident on the icy turf of Cleveland's Municipal Stadium, seemed to be melting away under the warm Florida sun.
Go get in there, Baltimore! Get it, Baltimore! Let's get on the board, baby! Let's get on the board!
On the first play of the second half, Tom Matte fumbled. The Jets recovered, and Jim Turner kicked a field goal to make it 10-0. From then on, the third quarter belonged to New York. Joe Namath manipulated the offense so well that the Jets had possession of the ball for all but 3 minutes of the period. Namath called about half the plays at the line of scrimmage and read Baltimore's shifting defense like an old pro. Namath's quick arm nullified Baltimore's fearsome blitz, and his accurate passes to George Sauer, number 83, consistently punctured the Colts' pass defense. Between passes, Namath continued to punch at the weak right side of the Colt defense with his running backs for small but important gains. The third quarter was dying, and so were the Colts. The Jets' margin was small, but definite. Joe Namath was enjoying one of his finest days. Earl Morrall was not. Late in the period, Jim Turner kicked a field goal to give New York a 13-point lead.
We get another score, though. We need another score. Can't let him get the big return. All right, Tank, let him get us through there. I would have got you in the middle, Tank, but I wanted to go with that 37, see?
It doesn't matter.
That's what I know, but I would have, you know. If it had been the game thing, I might have went that way.
A game that was supposed to be a laugh-in for the Colts was now a grim battle for survival. At this point, Don Shula replaced Earl Morrall with a man whose reputation was built fighting and winning such battles. With John Unitas, rested Baltimore's only hope of victory. At the beginning of the fourth period, Jim Turner kicked his third field goal to increase New York's lead. The Colts were 16 points behind in the last period. Similar odds had been conquered before with John Unitas at quarterback. But now, with his famous passing arm no more than a tattered memory, he could offer only a fighting heart and a will to win. buoyed by the presence of their old champion, the Colts finally did what they were supposed to do, did what they were capable of. But when Baltimore reached the New York 25, Unitas was betrayed by his ailing arm. His pass intended for Jimmy Orr was underthrown, and Randy Beverly made a juggling interception. For the Colts, it was a frustrating culmination to a good drive, but it confirmed the fact that with Unitas at quarterback, sore arm or not, they recaptured the fire and determination that had been their trademark. Unruffled by the appearance of the old master, Joe Namath marshaled his team on a carefully considered, time-consuming march that carried the Jets into Colt territory. The march stalled at the Colt 35. But with the Jets ahead by 16 points, young Joe Namath was only 7 minutes away from being pro football's championship quarterback. But in those final 7 minutes, Broadway Joe learned that there is still a place for a proud old man in a young man's game. Across the darkening field of the Orange Bowl, John Unitas ignored his aching arm and pushed the Baltimore Colts to their first score. Nine points behind, the Colts gambled on an onside kick and won possession on the New York 44. With only 3 minutes to play, all the hopes and dreams of an entire season rested on the shoulders of one man, one old pro. One last moment for the master. champions on a Sunday afternoon. A new one as a quarterback. An old one as a man. The National Football League begins steeping in honeysuckle in hot summer to sweeten an appetite for impact. Football requires a quick head for technique, and it favors fast-flying hands and feet for execution. But the essential demand is a stomach for the game. Winning is gut pride.
Hey, you better get it up, starting with this. I don't know whether you're pacing yourself or you're letting this weather get you, but it's been just about disgraceful. Now, let's get in here and go, or you'll be out here for about 2 hours. I don't care how much you know about football. If you show me you can't hit, you don't belong here. You better get in here angry, both sides, and let's go to work. Now, get it up.
During the preseason, pride goes and comes in many ways before the fall.
What the hell is going on with you today, Randy? If you can't run with authority, don't run.
Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it! Just keep away from me, got right to the man. Got 15 coming. Got 15 coming. Now just get away. Incomplete pass, 15. That was a terrible call. Come on, just stay away. First down. All right. You're looking right at him.
Hey, hit him from the side.
The side. First down, quiet now. Okay, that's sportsmanlike conduct, half the distance. Don't throw that forearm. No, he is not. Quit throwing that forearm.
From the top, it looks executive and slick, but it's more. The game has soul. Washington beat the Bears in Chicago opening day. The next week, they made a personal appearance in New Orleans and and got freeze-dried. Matching is a strategy which isolates players one-on-one in order to exploit some advantage in speed or size. The New York Giants outmatched Pittsburgh for openers. The third Sunday of the season, the Redskins and the Giants made a freewheeling match of contrasting team styles. The Redskins often seem like roustabouts at a carnival, setting up around hip-slinging Sonny Jurgensen. But with all his easy ways and classic skating motion, Slinging Sonny is the past master of the game. Grant Harkington is more exotic. When he scrambles, the New York Giants look like Roseland in a discotheque. It's not so easy to track him down. This Sunday, Tarkington and the Giants had it their way. They won their third game in a row and earned a murmur of title talk, long absent from the big town. The champion Packers were manhandled in the Central Division. The Chicago Bears got so excited crunching the fresh meat in strange jerseys that they forgot to win their first two games. And then the Bears quit headhunting and locked into two Stone Age struggles with the Vikings. The Bears beat the Vikings twice. The Vikings beat the Lions twice. The Lions beat the Bears twice. In the fifth week, a joker turned up in the NFL deal. The title-bound Vikings breezed into New Orleans and got freeze-dried for fools. A season turns on a game in the NFL, but which game? A team can never be sure. In New Orleans, it was the year of the Vikings game. The Saints were fully competitive after just 2 years in the league. When Norm Van Brocklin and Fran Tarkington were together in Minnesota, Van Brocklin remarked that Tarkington won games he shouldn't win, but he lost too many games he shouldn't lose. This Sunday, Tarkington was working for Allie Sherman and the Giants, and Van Brocklin was the new head coach of Atlanta. True to form, according to Van Brocklin, Fran Tarkington served up Atlanta's first victory. It was a good old day in Dixie, and it was a good old day when Norm Van Brocklin plucked an eye from the hated Chicago Bears, winning another game. At the other end of the Coastal Division, the 49ers, the Rams, and the Baltimore Colts were picking over a long, dried-up bone of contention. In 1967, a record of 11 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties earned for the Baltimore Colts an entire season's worth of agony and frustration. Consequently, in 1968, the Colts snatched up that old dried bone and quickly beat the Rams over the head with it. And then they lay waste to the NFL like Samson among the Philistines. When the Rams were stymied, the 49ers jumped them from behind and played their old rivals to a satisfactory draw, which iced the Coastal Division for Baltimore. The Dallas Cowboys came on technically charged and balanced like a clock, making time on a championship. They were the flashiest piece of work in the game. Some folks believe that the pack has already been back, that the ghost of the Green Bay Packers returned and did their thing to Dallas. Spooked or flat beaten, the Cowboys got their clock cleaned. And when they came to play Cleveland for all the honor in the East, they had no time left. The St. Louis Cardinals beat Cleveland twice, but in the year of the game, they forgot to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Browns began badly. For 5 weeks, they were not related to the proud tradition of Cleveland Browns. And suddenly, they got well against Baltimore, dishing up the Colts' only defeat of the NFL season. Smooth Bill Nelson charged up the Kelly machine, and a number of key young players caught a sudden case of maturity. The Browns gelled, and Cleveland streaked behind the league's leading ground gainer, Leroy Kelly, smartly into competition with Dallas for the title in the East. At the half, Cleveland was forcing the play, but Dallas had countered sharply, mastering the advantage every time the charging Browns let slip a mistake. According to Bobby Lane, there are no losers, but time runs out. One more victory for good teams and for bad teams makes it an entirely different season, a whole new year. It's a part of the pride of the pros, the year in a game. The Browns finally fired up the Kelly machine and brought order to the East. Sweet triumph. Good morning, Mr. Phelps. The Philadelphia Eagles had a conspicuous wealth of potential all-pro talent. Your job, Jim, if you should accept it, is to explain to the people in Philadelphia why this team will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Mission impossible. Every Sunday, game-tough players like Tom Woodishek hit with pride and abandon.
When I married Tom, I knew what I was in for as a football player's wife.
Okay, let's do that.
Good luck. Have a great game.
I never really worry about injuries before the game. If they happen, they happen.
But it's still hard to sit in the stands and wonder if Woody will make it through each game without being seriously injured.
Tender on the joint?
Right there.
Did you get hit on your chest?
Yeah. No, on the end of the shoulder.
Drove the clavicle
Yeah.
out. Move.
Hit on with buckets.
I think that'll be all right. Why don't we just turn this thing over to Moose? A little strapping, a little heat, something of that type, and we'll settle you down.
Fine. Heck of a time trying to sleep last night with this.
Well,
Just rolled around all night.
These are tender for about 10 days, is all, Tommy.
Yeah.
And they won't hamper your play any at all. What I want to do is
I
get
got
your...
one hair on my chest, and you had to put it on that hair, didn't you?
I was after it.
Primitive people sing the poetry of this charmed life in songs about lovers and hunters. We are hunters. If you think we're after meat, you're wrong. Meat is at the butcher's. We are hunters. Do not trample the furrow, little gazelle. I am ready to show you the way you do not know. Pro football is a sport, and players must sustain an edge of competitive excellence for love of the game, or they do not survive the sporting life. In the 12th game, Tom Wurtashek was the wheel horse of first sweet victory. And in the 14th game, the Eagles almost flew, playing Minnesota within inches of their Central Division title. The Western Conference playoff was never in real doubt. At one point, the incredible Colts defense did not permit a touchdown through 4 games of the season. Played football like cold-blooded, calculating devils. The Baltimore Colts sustained themselves through 16 games as one intense man competing on the edge of excellence. Baltimore was an overwhelming champion, certainly as great as any legendary champions in the rich lore of pro football. And all that remained was a cherry picking of the semi-interesting Super Bowl. difficult to explain to people in Baltimore that this is the year the game won.